I want to talk now about the trust in the media. Maybe this is all tied together. We've got some new trust in the media numbers out this morning, which are really pretty amazing. Not surprising that trust in the media has dipped to its second lowest point on record in recent memory. Not surprising at all. America's trust in the media continues to plummet, according to this new Gallup poll. This is the second lowest confidence number on record for the mainstream media. So Gallup asked voters how much they trust the media, and only 7% reported to have a great deal of trust. 29% reported a fair amount of trust. By the way, what's a fair amount? Like, what is a fair amount? I love that. What is a fair amount?
Fair.
It's fair.
Kinda trust
Yeah,
them.
that's kind of. I don't know what fair is. I don't know. Results were split amongst party lines. People who voted for the Democratic Party were far more likely to trust the media. What does that say, by the way, about Democrats? Like that they're just drones? They're willing to flip on Stephen Colbert, and they're willing to flip on the MSNBC and CNN, and believe that garbage. And then more likely than those who voted Republican, only 11% of Republicans reported having some trust in the media. 11%. Compared to 68% of Democrats had some trust in the media. That's a huge difference.
When you think about like the media being the fourth house of government, like they say, like that's the fourth house. I mean, can you imagine if we had like 11% confidence in government? I mean, that's ridiculous.
Like if someone told you like, hey, Philip, I have 11% confidence that you're going to get this job done. Or you're going to do a good job.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that I'm in the wrong field and I'm going to move on.
Right. Well, I have 11% confidence that you're going to get this job done well. And, okay, thanks. Thanks for your confidence there, Pops. It's the lowest score was reported during the presidential election between Trump and Hillary Clinton. So this is, it's not quite as low as it was back in 2016 here on your chart here at 32, but it is darn low. I mean, and no wonder, right? I mean, the American people flip on their local, flip on their television stations, and they flip on, they flip on these 24-hour news stations, and they're filled with talking points. They're filled with narratives of these billionaire corporations, right? At the end of the day, I think more and more people are waking up to the fact that all of these stations that they're watching on a regular basis, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, Bloomberg, CNBC, all of them, they're all run by billionaires, right? They're all run by billionaires. Why is this a surprise? So, is the jig up now? Like people understand that, hey, they're pushing a narrative. Like, why aren't we covering workers' strike stories on the mainstream media? Why aren't we covering the story, like a story we're about to bring you in a moment here about Taiwan? Like, why is this being ignored? Why is what's really going on in these wars around the world not being covered? Instead, they're all, pushing this narrative that we need to be in these endless wars, and we've got to support the military-industrial complex, and support big pharmaceutical companies. So we don't talk about the ridiculous cost of prescription drugs unless Bernie Sanders is talking about it. People don't trust the mainstream media anymore because they selectively edit, they block out, they ignore stories. I mean, we saw.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, I wonder if they had asked that question, like of people's trust in billionaires. I bet it would look very, very similar, because that's basically what they asked.
Well, it's the same. It's weird that during this time, during the polling over the summer, people said that they had more of a trust in businesses than they did their government and the media, but not the CEOs. It was more about the businesses that people had more of a faith in, like big business. Like that big business was going to swoop in and set Congress straight, tell them, And by the way, these CEOs that were pissed about the debt ceiling, they called Mitch McConnell and yelled at him. And that's why he caved on this issue, at least temporarily.
Yeah, because they don't. Congress doesn't need our money. They get their money from business, from Wall Street.
Right.
It's not the people's money. We don't have any power in that.
Between 1972 and 1976, 68 to 72% of Americans expressed trust in the mass media. Think about that. 72% of Americans had trust in the media. I mean, this is a time when you have Watergate, you have, Woodward and Bernstein, you have Walter Cronkite. You don't have these 24-hour news stations that are spinning yarns and pushing a narrative. So no wonder they don't trust the media,
Well,
Not
if you look at
surprising at
somebody
all.
like Walter Cronkite, it wasn't like on his show, it wasn't like what he did was just sit there and give his opinion about whatever for an hour and then leave. It was actually investigative journalism. It was actually like putting time and effort behind stories, where now it just seems like so much of the media is just editorials.
Right.
And that's all it is.
And investigative journalism we just don't have investigative journalism anymore. We have very little of it. We don't have people like Seymour Hersh, Cy Hersh, who was an incredible investigative journalist who uncovered all of the stuff that the CIA was doing in Vietnam. And I mean, the only reason because we have investigative journalists, the only reason we knew this stuff, that they were like killing people in order to set up and pretend that it was the Viet Cong killing other people, and yet we were the ones doing it. Like, the United States government was doing it, and we had because of journalists, but they're just very few anymore. Very few anymore. But we've got these ridiculous shows on CNN that pretend that they're the arbiters of truth, reliable sources. We're your reliable source here at CNN to get to the bottom of how the media is handling these stories.
You're cracking me up.
Yeah, exactly, Brian. Like that's our media situation right now. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. You can also become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join, where you can stick it to the mainstream media and support independent journalism. We're able to bring you the stories that you won't see on any of the major billionaire-backed networks. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time, everyone.